The first signs of danger came as a faint ripple in the sky. At first, no one noticed. The stars, as always, dotted the night, their light calm and reassuring. Then, in the blink of an eye, the skies erupted. Alien ships, massive and menacing, tore through the atmosphere, descending at a speed so fast that the world barely had time to react. It was not a subtle invasion. It was an attack, and it was happening now. The alien fleet, hundreds strong, glided across Earth's skies like a predatory bird circling its prey. From their perspective, Earth was nothing but a primitive world, still bound by the shackles of outdated technology. The aliens had studied countless planets before, and Earth's defenses were nothing to worry about. In their arrogance, they had underestimated humanity. The first wave was a sheer show of force, firepower beyond anything Earth had ever witnessed, dropping from the sky like lightning. People screamed as the world shook. Cities, landmarks, and military installations that had once been the pride of mankind crumbled in an instant. The aliens were swift and merciless, using weapons that sent buildings toppling, vaporizing entire city blocks with a single blast. From the ground, it was chaos. People running, panicking, struggling to comprehend what was happening. This was not a natural disaster. This was war, and humanity was caught completely off guard. At the same time, military bases scrambled to respond, but it quickly became apparent that Earth was ill-prepared for such an attack. As 16 jets soared into the sky, trying to meet the alien invaders head-on, their missiles firing, but it was like throwing stones at a wall. The alien ships shimmered in the atmosphere, their shields deflecting every hit. The aliens' superior technology rendered Earth's weapons almost useless. It seemed hopeless. In the middle of this devastation, a general named Marcus Hill sat in his command center, staring at a wall of monitors. The explosions on the screen were constant, the deafening sound of sirens and radio chatter filling the air. His mind raced. He had been in wars before, real wars, wars fought with blood and strategy. But nothing like this. No one had ever prepared for an invasion like this. His thoughts flickered to the innocent civilians in the cities below. There wasn't much they could do now. The aliens had come for war, and they were winning. "General, we've lost contact with 2 of our squadrons," a voice crackled over the intercom, snapping Hill out of his thoughts. "The enemy shields are impenetrable. The jets are being picked off one by one." Hill clenched his fist around the edge of his desk. His jaw tightened as he fought the growing panic rising inside him. This was no ordinary enemy. Whoever these invaders were, they weren't just here to conquer. They were here to destroy, to annihilate everything. He gave the order to launch all available defenses, and within moments, Earth's military firepower was directed toward the alien fleet. But it seemed like the more they shot, the more the invaders responded. One of the alien ships fired a concentrated beam of energy, cutting through an entire military base with terrifying efficiency. In an instant, it was gone, just like that. No warning, no time to react. The ground shook, and the sky above Earth became filled with flashes of light, explosions, and smoke. On the streets below, people ran in every direction, hoping to escape the chaos. They didn't know who the invaders were, where they came from, or why they had come, but they knew one thing. Earth was under attack, and their lives were in grave danger. As the minutes ticked by, the sound of sirens and gunfire echoed through the streets. Military personnel, once calm and disciplined, were scrambling. The invaders were unrelenting, their ships flying overhead like shadowy vultures waiting to pick at the remains of the planet. In cities, once thriving markets, and peaceful suburbs, the battle began to rage. The panic among the civilians was palpable. Families were torn apart in the chaos as people tried to find shelter, while emergency services tried to maintain some semblance of order. Hill, who had seen his fair share of death and destruction, stood frozen for a moment as the weight of the situation began to sink in. He watched as another wave of alien firepower hit the heart of one of the world's largest cities, leaving it a smoldering ruin. They were merciless, showing no sign of slowing down. "We need to get a plan," he muttered to himself, pacing the command center. "There has to be something we can do." He looked at the map of the globe on the screen. Military bases were under fire. Civilian cities were being wiped out. Every time humanity fired back, the aliens seemed to shrug off the attack, barely even bothered by the primitive human weapons. Hill could feel his anger bubbling. How could they just come here, destroy everything without even a second thought? Earth had always been a peaceful world. Yet now, for the first time in human history, Earth was at war, and it wasn't a war they had chosen. It had been thrust upon them. Minutes later, he was on the radio, coordinating with the remaining generals and officers. They were doing everything they could, but the alien invaders were still overwhelming Earth's forces. Then, suddenly, Hill got a report that made his blood run cold. One of the alien ships had landed, right outside a major city. "They're not just attacking from above. They're landing," Hill muttered. The invasion had just entered a whole new phase. The aliens were not only bombing Earth, they were preparing for ground combat. Whatever happened next, this fight was about to get a lot worse. As Hill formulated his next move, a sudden thought hit him. The aliens might have superior technology, but there was something they had underestimated: human resilience. Earth might be battered, it might be losing, but it was not broken. Hill didn't know how long they could hold out, but one thing was certain: humanity was not going to give up without a fight. The aliens may have thought they could conquer Earth without resistance, but they had made a fatal mistake. They had chosen the wrong planet. The alien fleet continued its relentless assault, leaving devastation in its wake. From the ground, it seemed as though there was no hope, no chance to overcome the overwhelming power of the invaders. Yet beneath the panic, beneath the fear, something else was stirring. Humanity had been brought to the brink of extinction, but it was not a species to go down quietly. Amidst the destruction, something unexpected began to happen. Earth's response was more than just survival. It was beginning to take shape into something far more dangerous to the invaders than they could ever have anticipated. For days, the alien ships hovered above, their enormous shadow casting a sense of doom across the planet. The surface below was torn apart by the weaponry the invaders unleashed, and every city that was attacked seemed to crumble beneath the pressure. However, Earth's military refused to give in. They weren't winning, but they weren't losing either. The human spirit, stubborn and unyielding, fought with a strength the aliens hadn't planned for. The military generals, the leaders, the common soldiers, they all began to adapt, to fight smarter rather than harder. Every alien ship that was destroyed, every attack that was blocked, showed the invaders that this planet wasn't as easy to conquer as they thought. Back at Earth's command center, General Marcus Hill stared at the monitors, tracking every movement of the alien fleet. The situation was dire, yes, but something strange was happening. Despite the overwhelming odds, Earth's forces were starting to make a dent in the alien advance. It was subtle, but it was there. The alien shields, impenetrable at first, now seemed to flicker slightly under the pressure of Earth's most advanced weaponry. It wasn't much, but it was a crack in the wall. And that crack, small as it was, had the potential to become a chasm. Hill leaned forward, scrutinizing the data in front of him. "What are they doing?" he muttered under his breath. "Why aren't they responding with full force?" It was clear now that the aliens were starting to hesitate, something the human forces could not afford to ignore. For all their might, for all their advanced weaponry, the aliens had underestimated Earth in the worst way possible. They had underestimated humanity's capacity to adapt, to learn, and to survive. The aliens were relentless, but they were also predictable. They had come with the same strategy they had used to conquer countless worlds. The shock and awe tactic, the overwhelming firepower that destroyed planets without resistance. But what they hadn't planned for was a species that could adapt on the fly. that could come together and improvise when faced with overwhelming odds. Earth's forces, at first taken by surprise, began to learn how to use the alien technology that had been left in the wake of each destroyed ship. They had studied the wreckage, examined the patterns, and slowly began to understand the invaders' systems. Some of the most brilliant minds on the planet, scientists, engineers, and military strategists, worked tirelessly, combining their knowledge and crafting new weapons designed to exploit the weaknesses of the alien technology. It wasn't long before the first breakthrough came. The military had managed to develop a specialized EMP, electromagnetic pulse, device capable of disabling the alien shields temporarily. It wasn't perfect. Nothing was. But it was enough. Enough for Earth's forces to make their first real push against the alien fleet. The first successful strike came when a group of fighter jets equipped with these newly developed EMP devices launched an assault against a group of alien warships. The moment the pulse hit, the alien ship's shields flickered and died, just for a few moments. But in that time, humanity's forces took advantage of the opening. Missiles fired, bombs exploded, and alien ships that were once invincible came crashing down in fiery explosions. Earth had managed to get a foothold. The aliens, meanwhile, were still reeling from the unexpected resistance. Their commanders, who had been certain of victory, began to question the intelligence of their initial assessment. How had humanity adapted so quickly? How had they learned so much in such a short amount of time? The invaders had believed they could annihilate Earth's forces with ease, but now they were facing the very thing they had never prepared for, a planet that would not surrender. In the command center, Hill looked at the screen in front of him, his eyes narrowing. The aliens were still formidable, still dangerous, but Earth had proven it could fight back. "We can win this," he said quietly, but with fierce conviction. He didn't know how yet. He didn't know what the next step would be. But for the first time since the invasion began, there was a glimmer of hope, a chance that Earth might just turn the tide. In the streets below, amidst the chaos, people began to see it too. The survivors in the cities, those who had taken refuge in shelters or hidden away in underground bunkers, started to realize that the invaders weren't invincible. People who had once feared for their lives now rallied to the cause, inspired by the victories, no matter how small. Earth wasn't just surviving, it was fighting back. And as the days passed, the alien fleet found themselves confronted by something they had not expected. Humanity was no longer just a target. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. On the battlefield, Earth's forces, now more coordinated and efficient, launched new strikes against the alien fleet. Fighter jets and missiles targeted the weakened alien ships, while Earth's ground forces began to reclaim the cities that had been lost. There was no time to waste. Every minute counted. The aliens, despite their superior technology, had begun to lose control. They had underestimated the one thing that could truly defeat them, the unyielding will of humanity. And now, as the alien forces regrouped, there was one undeniable truth. They had made a grave mistake. They had chosen the wrong planet. At the heart of the alien fleet, the commanders could feel the shift. The fear was creeping in, ever so slightly, but it was there. Earth, the planet they had once dismissed as nothing more than an insignificant speck in the universe, was proving to be far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The real battle had just begun. As the days passed, the conflict between Earth and the alien invaders grew fiercer. The once invincible alien fleet, which had dominated the skies with ease, now found itself on the defensive. The humans, who had been caught completely off guard in the beginning, had found their footing. The alien ships, once untouchable and superior, were now starting to show signs of vulnerability. General Marcus Hill, standing in the heart of the command center, watched with growing intensity as the alien fleet began to scatter, seemingly uncertain of their next move. Their once coordinated attacks had become erratic. The coordinated laser strikes that had leveled cities now seemed slower, less precise. The once perfect shields of the alien ships flickered more often, and their evasive maneuvers were no longer flawless. Something had shifted in the tide of the war, and it wasn't just the military innovations Earth had managed to implement. It was the humans themselves. The invasion had started with overwhelming force. The aliens had attacked with such force that it had seemed like nothing could stop them. But now, Earth's forces were beginning to push back with an unexpected fury. The smaller, scrappy units of soldiers, pilots, and engineers who had never fought on this kind of scale were now finding ways to fight smart, to outmaneuver the invaders in ways they hadn't anticipated. Humanity wasn't just reacting. It was adapting, evolving, and overcoming the challenge in real time. "General, we've got a breakthrough on the ground," came a voice over the intercom, pulling Hill from his thoughts. He snapped his attention to the speaker, who continued, "Our ground units in Europe have recaptured several key cities. The aliens are falling back. It's not over yet, but we're gaining ground." Hill let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He knew this was just one part of the larger battle, but it was a vital one. If they could reclaim those cities, it would send a powerful message. The alien invaders, who had assumed Earth was nothing more than an easy target, were beginning to realize they had made a serious miscalculation. However, despite the newfound hope and the victories on the ground, Hill knew that this wasn't going to be easy. The alien fleet was still formidable. Their technology was beyond anything humanity had ever seen, and the fleet's firepower was still far superior to Earth's most advanced weapons. If they couldn't find a way to end the war soon, the aliens could regroup and strike back with devastating force. Time was against them. As Hill walked through the command center, his mind raced with strategies and possibilities. He thought about the technology they had been able to reverse engineer from the wreckage of the alien ships. What if they could use that technology to turn the tide in their favor? What if they could launch a final strike, a blow so powerful that the alien forces would be left with no choice but to retreat? His thoughts were interrupted when one of his officers rushed up to him. "Sir, we've been able to tap into the alien communication frequencies," she reported, her voice tight with excitement. "We're listening in. They're planning a counterattack. It's big. They've concentrated all their remaining forces in one area." Hill's eyes narrowed. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The moment when the aliens would make their move. If they could defeat this counterattack, they could cripple the alien fleet and potentially end the war. But if they failed, it could be disastrous. "Get me the full details," Hill ordered, his mind already moving to the next phase of the plan. "We need to be ready." Minutes later, Hill was standing in front of a massive screen, analyzing the data that had been intercepted. The alien fleet had indeed gathered its remaining forces in a single location, right outside of Earth's orbit. It was a calculated decision, one that would give them the power to launch a devastating assault on Earth. But it was also a weakness. The aliens were making a final desperate push to end the war, but in doing so, they had concentrated all their strength into one spot. Hill's plan began to form. If they could strike at this concentration, they might be able to destroy the alien fleet in one blow. But they would need everything, every weapon, every soldier, every ship that Earth could muster. He turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "We're going to hit them where it hurts. We'll strike fast, strike hard, and we'll finish this once and for all." As the orders were given, the atmosphere in the command center grew tense. Everyone knew this was it, the final push. The next few hours would decide the fate of Earth. Meanwhile, across the globe, Earth's military forces were mobilizing. The remaining jets, bombers, and warships gathered in secret locations, preparing for the decisive battle. There was no turning back now. This was their chance to destroy the invaders before they could mount a counteroffensive. For the soldiers on the ground, the tension was palpable. They had seen their cities destroyed, their families torn apart. They had watched as their homes burned, as their comrades fell in battle. But now, as they geared up for the final assault, there was a fire in their hearts, a desire to protect everything they held dear. In the air, the skies were darkened by the shadow of the alien fleet, still hovering ominously above Earth. The alien ships, once a symbol of terror, now seemed more vulnerable. Their shields, though still formidable, had weakened over time. The alien ships, once poised to conquer, now looked like they were clinging to survival. And so, Earth's forces began their final push. Jets and warships soared through the atmosphere, their weapons primed. The ground shook with the power of the coming battle. Humanity was no longer afraid. They had been pushed to the edge. But now they had become a force to be reckoned with. They had learned, they had adapted, and they had come together to fight back. As the final strike approached, General Hill stood at the command center, watching as the battle unfolded on the screens in front of him. This was humanity's moment. The aliens had chosen the wrong planet. The war was not over yet, but the beginning of the end was now in sight. "Let's show them what happens when you mess with Earth," Hill muttered, his voice filled with cold resolve. The final battle was about to begin, and humanity would not go down without a fight. The final assault was imminent. General Marcus Hill stood with a determined expression, watching the holographic map of Earth's orbit, where the alien fleet was gathering. The enemy's ships were massive, their technology unmatched by anything Earth had ever seen. However, what the aliens had never accounted for was humanity's resilience, its drive to survive no matter the odds. As Hill observed the ships positioning themselves, he knew the upcoming battle would determine the fate of not only Earth but the future of humanity itself. The war had been brutal. Earth had already endured the overwhelming shock of the initial alien invasion. Cities lay in ruins, millions had lost their lives, and the landscape had been marred by alien weaponry. Yet despite all this, humanity was not broken. They had found a way to adapt, to fight back, to challenge the alien invaders at every turn. They had learned to exploit every weakness in the alien fleet, turning the tide little by little until the unthinkable began to happen. The invaders were retreating. But now the aliens had made their desperate play. They were gathering everything they had left, consolidating their forces for one final strike, one that would either crush humanity or obliterate the remaining hope of resistance. If Earth's forces could stop them, they would end this war once and for all. If they failed, there would be no Earth left to fight for. As Hill walked briskly through the command center, orders were given, and the warships and fighter jets were primed for the battle. The final strike plan had been carefully crafted by the best minds humanity had to offer. They would launch everything they had at the aliens' concentrated fleet, hitting them from multiple angles, using their newfound knowledge of the invaders' technology and weaknesses. This wasn't going to be a simple defense. It was going to be an all-out coordinated offensive to catch the aliens off guard and destroy them. "General, the fleet is ready for launch," came the voice of Lieutenant Harper, her face tense with anticipation. Hill gave a sharp nod. "Let's move out," he said, his voice calm, but with a fire behind it. "This is it. We end it today." As the human forces launched into space, their ships lined up like a wave ready to crash against the alien fortress. The alien fleet loomed large ahead, a wall of advanced, menacing ships hovering just outside Earth's orbit. The humans had been carefully positioning themselves for days, and now the moment had arrived. The aliens hadn't expected the humans to have such determination. They hadn't thought they would be able to adapt quickly enough to put up such a relentless fight. The element of surprise had shifted to humanity. The first wave of human fighters shot through the void of space, their weapons blazing. As they approached the alien fleet, they unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy blasts. Some alien ships tried to activate their shields, but they were weakened after continuous engagements with Earth's forces over the past few days. For a brief moment, the human forces saw the flicker of weakness in their enemy, an opening. General Hill's eyes narrowed as he watched from the command center. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, but there was no fear. There couldn't be. The human fleet was pressing the attack, and they would not falter now. For every missile that struck, for every alien ship that fell, humanity's strength grew. Status report. Hill barked. Shields on the alien ships are flickering. Sir, we've managed to disable their long-range weapons for now, but they're regrouping. We'll need to press the attack before they can recover, Lieutenant Harper responded urgently. Hill nodded. Keep the pressure on. No retreat. The battle raged on. Earth's warships poured energy blasts into the alien formations, cutting through shields and then striking at vital components, engines, weapon systems, and communication relays. Every ship they destroyed was one less for the invaders to use against them. But the alien forces were not going down easily. Their ships retaliated with laser fire, targeting the human fleet with deadly precision. Several of Earth's ships were struck, their hulls pierced by the powerful alien weapons. But Earth's fleet didn't slow down. One of Earth's largest warships, the Vanguard, took a direct hit. The explosion sent shockwaves through the fleet, causing the surrounding ships to adjust their courses to avoid debris. For a moment, Hill felt his heart drop. The Vanguard had been one of their strongest ships, and its loss was a devastating blow. But there was no time to mourn. The battle was far from over, and the humans couldn't afford to hesitate. They pressed forward, utilizing every strategy they had developed in their time of resistance. Focus fire on their flagship, Hill ordered. The flagship was the heart of the alien fleet, the command center of the entire invasion force. If they could destroy it, they could cripple the alien command structure and break their will to fight. Earth's forces turned their attention to the massive ship, launching every missile, every energy pulse, every weapon they had. The alien ship's shields, battered by days of battle, were no longer enough to protect it. Slowly but surely, the human forces chipped away at it, and finally, a massive explosion tore through the flagship. It was a sight to behold. An explosion so fierce it sent shockwaves through space, lighting up the battlefield. The remaining alien ships faltered. They had lost their command structure, their heart, and now they were vulnerable. The humans didn't give them a moment to recover. The remaining alien ships began to retreat, but they were slow, disorganized, and far from the coordinated fleet they once were. "We've done it," Harper said, her voice shaking slightly with disbelief. "We've beaten them." Hill allowed himself a brief exhale. The battle wasn't over, but the war had taken a decisive turn. The alien invaders had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. Earth's forces had proven that even against insurmountable odds, humanity would find a way to fight back, to survive. As the alien fleet scattered and their ships began to burn up in Earth's atmosphere, Hill allowed himself a moment of relief. It was a hard-won victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The war was not over, but humanity had shown the galaxy something it would never forget. The invaders had chosen the wrong planet, and they had underestimated the will of the human race. This was only the beginning. The fight for Earth's survival had become the fight for its future. As the alien fleet scattered and the first victories began to mount, Earth's forces didn't hesitate. There was no time for celebration, no moment to bask in the relief that came from driving back the invaders. The war was far from over, and General Hill knew that if they didn't finish it now, the alien forces would regroup, reorganize, and strike back with even more power. The final blow had to come soon, and humanity had to be the one to land it. Hill stood in the heart of the command center, the air thick with tension. Around him, officers and soldiers worked tirelessly, their eyes glued to the massive screens showing the remnants of the alien fleet attempting to retreat. Some of the alien ships were making desperate attempts to regroup, while others had turned tail and fled towards deep space, hoping to escape the wrath of Earth's forces. General Hill knew that leaving even a small portion of the enemy fleet alive could mean disaster. These invaders were powerful and relentless, and they wouldn't hesitate to come back for revenge if given the chance. They had underestimated humanity once, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. "General, we've intercepted communication from their survivors," Lieutenant Harper said, her voice tense with urgency. "They're making plans to regroup. They intend to call for reinforcements from their home system." Hill's eyes darkened. This was the break they'd been waiting for. The aliens hadn't anticipated that humanity would have the capability to take on their fleet, let alone defeat it. The longer they remained in Earth's vicinity, the more Earth's forces could capitalize on their vulnerability. "Get me a full fleet analysis," Hill ordered. Harper's fingers flew over the control panel, and within moments, a detailed readout of the remaining alien forces appeared on the screen. There were only a handful of ships left, but they were heavily damaged and scattered. Many of their remaining vessels were attempting to escape toward the outer edges of Earth's solar system. "Those ships won't make it," Hill muttered, his mind already calculating the odds. "We're going to catch them before they can even think about escaping. We've still got some of our fleet intact, but we don't know if we have the firepower to finish them off completely," Lieutenant Harper warned. "If we make a move now, there's a risk they'll send out a distress signal. They'll bring reinforcements, and we'll be caught in an even larger battle." Hill's gaze hardened. The risk was obvious, but there was no other choice. Earth had fought too hard to let the aliens escape and bring back reinforcements. The fate of humanity was too precarious to gamble on a second chance. "We're not waiting for reinforcements," Hill said firmly. "We're taking the fight to them, and we'll finish this now. No one leaves this system alive." The orders were quickly transmitted. Earth's remaining ships, battered but determined, were mobilized. They were going to track down the scattered alien fleet, hunt them down, and eliminate them before they could regroup. Every soldier, pilot, and engineer who had fought and bled for Earth knew what was at stake now. This was the last chance for Earth to truly win this war, to ensure their survival, and to prevent these invaders from ever threatening their world again. As the human fleet moved to intercept, the battle that followed was nothing like the earlier skirmishes. This wasn't a simple clash between forces. It was a fight for Earth's very future. The remaining alien ships, their hulls weakened and their weapon systems impaired, attempted to flee into the blackness of space. They moved with desperation, knowing that they couldn't escape the fury of Earth's forces. But Earth's ships were relentless. The human fleet gave chase, outpacing the alien ships and closing the gap with every passing minute. The tension in the command center was palpable as Hill watched the holographic map, his mind calculating the best angles of attack. The first strike came when Earth's fighters closed in on one of the remaining alien ships. Missiles launched, and energy blasts fired in rapid succession. The alien ship shields, weakened from the previous engagements, were no match for the ferocity of the assault. The ship exploded in a fiery blast, sending debris flying in all directions. The next target was the largest of the alien ships. This one, despite its significant damage, was still operational and trying to make a break for deep space. Hill knew it was the most dangerous. If it escaped, it could serve as a beacon for reinforcements to arrive. This was their final, crucial opportunity. "Concentrate all fire on that ship," Hill ordered, his voice booming through the command center. No mercy. The full might of Earth's remaining forces turned on the massive alien vessel. The battle raged as Earth's fleet relentlessly bombarded the ship with everything they had. The alien vessel fought back, its remaining weaponry firing back with lethal precision, but it was no match for the humans. Slowly but surely, the alien ship's shields began to flicker and fail. The crew aboard the alien vessel must have known their time was running out, for they made a final, desperate attempt to escape. But it was too late. With a final, decisive blow, Earth's fleet struck the alien ship's core. The resulting explosion was nothing short of catastrophic. A massive shockwave rippled through space, and the alien ship was torn apart in a flash of brilliant light. General Hill allowed himself a moment to breathe. The alien threat was over. The last of their ships had been destroyed, and there would be no reinforcements arriving to threaten Earth. For the first time since the invasion had begun, the weight of the war felt lighter. Humanity had fought back. They had shown the invaders that Earth was not a planet to be conquered, and the consequences of underestimating humanity were grave. "We did it," Harper said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and triumph. "We've won." Hill looked out at the vast expanse of space, where the remnants of the alien fleet now floated, scattered and destroyed. His mind flashed to the horrors of the invasion, the destruction, the lives lost. But there was something else there, too. The overwhelming sense of relief that they had survived. Humanity had faced the darkness of an unimaginable war, and they had come through stronger, united. But the war may have ended in space, but the healing would have to begin on Earth. There would be no returning to the world they once knew, not immediately. There would be scars, both physical and emotional, that would take years to heal. But humanity had learned something profound in this battle. The aliens had chosen the wrong planet. They had underestimated the power of humanity's will to survive, to fight for its home, and to never surrender. And now, Earth was victorious. The aftermath of the battle was still fresh in the minds of everyone who had survived. The entire planet was in recovery mode, but the weight of what had been accomplished hung heavily in the air. Earth had just survived an invasion by a vastly superior alien force, an event that no one had thought was possible. Yet now it was history. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they were made of, but there was still much work to do. And General Hill knew that this victory wasn't the end, but rather a new beginning. In the weeks following the final battle, the world slowly started to pick up the pieces. The damage to Earth's cities was immense, with some areas still smoldering from the alien bombardments. But amid the destruction, something remarkable was happening. People were coming together, not just to rebuild, but to unite as a single force, a force that had been forged through adversity and sacrifice. Humanity's military leaders, scientists, and engineers began the painstaking task of salvaging technology from the wreckage of the alien ships. There was so much to learn, so much that could give humanity a fighting chance in the future. The alien ships were beyond anything Earth had ever seen, but there were still pieces of their technology that could be studied, reverse-engineered, and adapted. Earth's forces weren't just repairing their world. They were preparing for a future where they would never again be caught unprepared. But for General Hill, the work was far from over. He had spent countless days overseeing the recovery efforts, ensuring that humanity's military infrastructure remained intact and that the lessons learned from the alien invasion were passed on. The damage to Earth's cities was a reminder of how close humanity had come to being wiped out, but it was also a testament to the resilience of Earth's people. The aliens had come for war, expecting to crush the human race, but they had underestimated the indomitable spirit of Earth's defenders. It was only a matter of time before other nations would reach out, offering aid, and the world began to rebuild, not just with technology, but with unity. For the first time, humanity felt like one collective force. Old borders between nations had been dissolved in the wake of the invasion. Everyone now shared a common enemy, the aliens who had come so close to annihilating them. It was a bond that transcended politics, race, and creed. The war had created a new Earth, one that was stronger, more connected, and determined to stand together. In the heart of the command center, Hill stood before a large screen, showing the reconstructed human fleet, now far stronger, better equipped, and more advanced than ever before. They had rebuilt faster than anyone could have predicted, and the prospect of going on the offensive was now very real. Humanity wasn't just sitting back, content to rest on its laurels. They were preparing for the next phase of their journey. He watched as ships glided across the screen, newly fitted with alien technology integrated into human designs. Their weapons were more powerful, their shields stronger. The alien invaders had taught humanity a painful lesson, but it was a lesson that had made them sharper, more resourceful, and far more dangerous than they had ever been before. The door to the command center opened, and Lieutenant Harper entered, her expression serious, though there was a sense of optimism in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "General, we've received a signal from the remnants of the alien fleet," she said, handing him a datapad. They're asking for a ceasefire. Hill's heart skipped a beat. The enemy had been utterly routed, their last hope extinguished. Why would they ask for a ceasefire now? Put it on screen, he ordered, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. The large holographic screen flickered to life, and an alien figure appeared, its form incomprehensible, with sharp angles and unnatural proportions. Its voice echoed through the command center, speaking in a language that was now easily understood thanks to humanity's reverse engineering of alien communication devices. "We surrender," the alien said. "Our fleet is decimated. Our homeworld is lost. You have proven your strength. We offer peace." Hill studied the alien carefully. The creature's tone was one of utter defeat, yet there was no hiding the underlying fear in its voice. This wasn't a plea for mercy. It was a desperate admission of the invaders' inability to continue the fight. "Why should we trust you?" Hill's voice cut through the tense silence. "You came to Earth, you invaded us, and you slaughtered millions. Why would we accept peace now?" The alien seemed to hesitate, as though weighing its words carefully. "Because you are stronger than we anticipated, and you have proven yourselves worthy of survival. We did not understand your resolve. We did not understand your capacity for endurance. You are a threat to us, and we realize now that we have no hope of overcoming you. We seek a ceasefire, not as a surrender of our species, but as a recognition of your power." Hill's gaze hardened, but there was a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He wasn't making this decision alone. Humanity's future was at stake. "What do you want in exchange for peace?" Hill asked, his voice steady, controlled. The alien's answer was calm, but laden with the weight of desperation. "We seek only the cessation of hostilities. Our fleets will depart your system. We will never return." Hill felt a moment of hesitation. Could he trust them? Would this ceasefire be permanent? Or was this just another tactic? There was too much at stake to make a rash decision. The human race had fought for its survival, and now it was faced with a decision that could change the course of history. After a moment of contemplation, Hill made his decision. "We will accept your ceasefire. But know this, if you ever return, humanity will be ready." The alien's form flickered, as if acknowledging the weight of his words, before disappearing from the screen. The silence in the room was deafening. Hill exhaled slowly, his mind racing with the implications of this moment. Peace had been offered, but it came at a cost. Humanity had to remain vigilant, always ready, always prepared. The battle had been won, but the war for Earth's future was far from over. As Hill turned to leave the command center, he knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had risen from the ashes of war, and now it was time to forge a new path. One that was stronger, more united, and more determined than ever before. The galaxy would remember Earth, and humanity would make sure it stayed that way.